I have to redo this intro because I got my days mixed up. Definitely feels weird that I am recording this on a day that I normally stream. Hello there, everybody. I'm Saban92 aka Nightmare. I'm a little bit out of sorts, and welcome back to Chaos Head. Okay, so last episode, the demon has shown up, and I've already forgotten her name. I literally was thinking about it today. I had her name. I think her last name was Sakihata, I think. I don't know. But she has decided to show up. She's not yandere blood-stirred crazy, or who knows, maybe she's pulling a Yua, and I have legitimately no freaking clue what she, like, she's probably just putting on a, yeah, she's probably pulling a Yua and pretending to be somebody else that I'm not familiar with. But, an interesting reveal here. That, or who knows? Because at this point, I don't know if I can trust her words here. But apparently she knows Misumi. Apparently she knows me, our main character, Takumi. Apparently, they're classmates. And according to the Misumi on the phone, that is true. Well, I'm not entirely sure what to make of that. All I know is, I can't trust anything right now. I'm slowly being put into Takumi's perspective here, where I cannot trust anything that I'm hearing and nothing that I am seeing. How fascinating. How very fascinating. Oh, apparently this is also another one of those rare cases, or it's another one of those cases where the anime adaptation of this is actually pretty bad. Which, hell, I didn't know that there was... I think I learned from my girlfriend that apparently there was an anime adaptation to this, and I didn't know that. But, no, wait, it was somebody else. Man, whatever. It was one of those two. But, apparently, this scene that we just saw last episode was literally covers... It's literally in the first episode. That's sad. That's terrible pacing. Oh, boy. Well, I've been keeping people waiting long enough. I need to see what the hell's happening. I need to see what's going on. In the midst of a pitch-black room, the pale light of a PC monitor cut through the darkness. Pictured on the screen was a Seira screensaver from Bloodtoon the animation. While there had been a girl by the name of Sakihata Rimi. Okay, so I was right. Sakihata. Sakihata Rimi, present in the container half a day prior. The only figure that remained was the container's owner, Nishijo Takumi. And suddenly we're not even in his perspective anymore. It was already 5 in the morning. In Takumi's daily life, he would play online games until dawn, and then collapse onto the sofa once he could not keep his eyes open any longer. Even now, Takumi was asleep on the couch, twisted in a seemingly uncomfortable position. He never used his bed for sleep. He did indeed have a proper bed, but it was already occupied by manga, CDs, and other random piled-up media. He could never be bothered to tidy it up, so his bed had effectively been repurposed into his storeroom. Ever since then, he had utilized his two-person sofa as his one and only place to sleep. A pained moan escaped from Takumi's lips. Perhaps he was having a nightmare. His entire body was perspiring, and his closed eyes twitched and trembled. His expression was warped in agony, and he was tossing and turning so frequently he came very close to falling off the couch. Right before he did, however, his eyes suddenly and inexplicably shot open as he faced the ceiling. They were bloodshot, and his eyeballs were faintly convulsing. Still in that state, without blinking even a single time, he rose from the sofa. He slowly staggered toward the PC. Without sitting down, he moved the mouse as he stood before the desk. The screensaver disappeared and his desktop showed itself. The pale light of the monitor shone on Takumi's face, illuminating his horrifyingly vacant expression. His body swayed back and forth, and his mouth hung slightly ajar. Drool seeped down his chin. His current state was a textbook example of sleepwalking. The delirious boy launched the web browser, then opened @channel. His movement itself was languid and slow, but he showed no hesitation in selecting a thread from the board related to Nujet. The board listed a total of around 60 threads, and Takumi slowly opened each of them one by one. And then, with his eyes remaining glued to the monitor, he began to type. He repeated this action for each and every thread. His posts were not particularly long, only housing a few characters each, but they all composed the exact same sentence. A fucking course. So we were right. Sleepwalking, he is Shogun. So Yua was correct. Wait a minute, are we back at the hospital now? I went to the hospital first thing next morning. They hadn't confirmed it the last time I'd come here, but today, they would definitely tell me I was normal. Dr. Takashina would remember me. I'd tell him, it's me, Nishijo. I was your patient until around 4 years ago. And then he'd tell me everything I needed to hear. Buddy, I read your... Do you want me to pull this up here? My dude, I can casually just pull this information up for you. You're not going to like it, but I have your diagnostics right over here in the tip list. See? Diagnosis. Look at this. You're slightly delusional. I wasn't the crazy one. It was the demon girl and Misumi-kun. They were the crazy ones. That was definitely what he was going to say. This hospital opened at 8 in the morning, which was a little bit earlier than regular hospitals. That was the reason why I'd shown up right when it opened. And yet, the seats in the lobby were already filled with countless middle-aged people. Or older. What the hell? Why? The hospital had just opened! So why were there so many people here? Don't you bastards know head starts are unfair? Come on, time, like you're supposed to, assholes! As I continued to insult them inside my head, I had no choice but to wait. About an hour passed before I really started to regret not having made an appointment. But right after I started thinking that, they called my name, and I was immediately relieved to know that I wouldn't have to wait as long as last week. Is the cute nurse still here? Except the one waiting for me in the examination room wasn't Dr. Takashina, but some white-haired old man that I had never seen before.
Takashina sensei wa...
Noticing my confusion, the nurse standing right behind him, I think her name was Hazuki-san, gave an apologetic look.
Takashina sensei wa mou imasen.
What? What?
もういないというか、過労がたたって先週末に倒れてしまわれてね。今週はそれでずっと休みだよ。
Oh, thank God. Okay. Lady! You poorly worded that! Like, seriously? He's no longer with us. Oh my God, he's dead? Oh no, he collapsed. He's currently taken on break. Why did you word it like that, girl? What? This couldn't be happening. My one and only ally. Wait, had he really collapsed from fatigue?
陰謀だ。悪魔女の陰謀だ。
Nishijo-san?
What the hell are you talking about?
She had to have poisoned his food, or sent him a death threat to scare him into submission, or done some other horrible act to psychologically break him. This had to be the work of the demon girl. She was trying to isolate me from my ally so I'd be defenseless against her assault. There was no way in hell I was going to let anyone other than Dr. Takashina examine me. So, instead of getting a checkup, I ran away from the hospital. Well, that's an option. Not the correct option, but it's an option. It's a real shame that you're actually a Shogun, my dude. Leaning on the fence at the edge of the roof, I blankly stared up at the sky. The skies of Shibuya were dim and lifeless. You had to be crazy to call them clear.
病院にはもう行かない方がいい。
The demon girl's net was tightening around me. Maybe I already had nowhere to run. Maybe the detectives I'd met yesterday were imposters. Maybe in reality, they had been the demon girl's underlings all along, and they'd just been testing me. That had to be it. The timing had been just way too perfect. The demon girl had broken into my room right after I'd talked to them, for fuck's sake. She was a demon, after all. She wasn't human. Controlling and manipulating the human mind would be child's play for her. I had no evidence of that, though. But at the same time, I had no evidence proving she wasn't a demon. Which meant the only way to stay alive was to just assume the worst case scenario. Did I really have nobody on my side? It felt like everyone was against me. No matter where I looked, no matter who it was, all I saw was just another one of the demon girl's underlings.
助けて。誰か助けてよ。
Why didn't I have even a single ally? Why couldn't anyone come save me? Why did only I have to suffer so much? I felt more helpless than ever. I just wanted something to support me, someone who would protect me, something that would protect me. I didn't care who or what it was, just someone, something, please! Grant me salvation. And then, just as suddenly, Fez's, Kishimoto Ayase's face appeared in my mind. I remembered what she'd said to me when we'd met at school. I'd been lost in my own delusions at the time, but Misumi-kun had told me what she'd said. Find a sword. If you do, you'll be granted salvation.
Ken.
If this was a game, I'd be the protagonist. And there'd be a cliché story moment where I'd obtain the legendary sword and triumph over evil. At this point, I'd heard the word sword from 2 different 3D girls recently. And in extremely close proximity at that. There still remained the possibility that Fez was on my side. Girl B, however, I think her name was Senna, had a pretty high chance of being one of the demon girl's underlings, judging by her attitude. A sword.
剣だ。剣を手に入れるんだ。そうすれば。
I started talking to myself like I'd lost my mind. I was grasping at straws at this point. If I just get my hands on a sword, I might be freed from this nightmare. I couldn't help but hope for that. It wasn't that I believed what Fez had said about it granting me salvation. I just had nothing else to cling to. At the very least, I should do some research. Watch her be, like, in the room. Oh, never mind, I guess not. I promptly tried searching for it online. I started off by checking to see if the swords Fez and Senna were carrying appeared in any anime, but I couldn't find anything. At least from the seasonals. I'd expected as much. I always checked out the newest anime, after all. Considering there are upwards of 30 to 40 of them in one season, it'd really pile up on me if I tried to watch them all, so I just watched the first couple episodes and figured out which ones to keep following from there. Naturally, since MewTube Oh my fucking god, MewTube! Hopefully MewTube has better copyright system, or protection than, you know, everything else. From the site that shall not be named. I had no trouble completing my lineup from channels such as BS and CS. So there was no way I'd overlooked any anime. And those swords weren't in any of the shows I'd had checked out. The swords both had extremely distinctive shapes, so if they'd show up, I definitely would have remembered them. Although, if someone other than myself had been controlling me when I saw it, then there was nothing I could do about it. Next, I tried searching for the swords themselves. rather than anime they might have appeared in.
くそ、ほとんどがゲームの攻略サイトじゃんか。
Ah, damn it, gotta stay away from IGN. They complain about water too much. Terms I knew well, such as ESO's Shangri-La Edge, kept popping up. I was making no progress. For fuck's sake, I was supposed to be able to find it quickly! I had a feeling that Senna had used a more concrete name for it, but what had it been? Remember! The nightmare won't end unless you remember!
答えろ。見えるんだな。D ソードが。
The D sword.
D ソード。
There you go. You got it. That was it! She'd called it a D sword. I quickly typed it in and ran a search. I got hits! Only 2 of them, though. Even so, I was already starting to think of those 2 links as my road to salvation. Holding back my excitement, I clicked on the top one first. That shit! The page was down! Damn it, what the hell? Okay, calm down. Go back and look at the catch. Oh. The page had an illustration on it. It must have been a recreation based on how the sword was described in various books. Delusional Ideal Sword. Thus, swords of light known as D-swords were unleashed upon the world. D-swords are fictional swords created in medieval Europe by the legendary Gladiol, the Wicked Heart King. The swords are created to feed off the negative emotions of man, and as such, it is said that the Black Knights who fought with these swords eventually had their hearts eaten away by them. And I can barely read that top statement there, but moment one of these seemingly unarmed warriors swung their arm, the sharp slice caused their opponent's arm to be severed from their body and fall to the ground before they could even feel the pain. Much like the Kamai Taichi phenomenon. Ancient legends often contain settings that are...
元ネタは伝承か。
Alright. Ancient legends often contain settings that transcend the theories of all creation. And as such, the sword has made appearance in several pseudepigrapha books. And various other mediums. D-swords and the Kamai Taichi phenomenon are considered to be practically synonymous. Kamai Taichi, meanwhile, are imaginary specters that are sometimes depicted as weasels with sharp sickles for arms. Oh, I fought that in frickin' Neo. But this interpretation can only be attributed to a faithful recreation of people's Neo too, sorry. To a faithful recreation of people's imaginations over many years. If one were to describe the beings in words, Kamai Taichi would be spirits of the wind, entities with a very weak presence in reality. However, the truth of the phenomenon has already been verified by modern science. The slices are said to be caused by a naturally occurring phenomenon in places where the air is incredibly dry, and the vacuum-like conditions in such places causes cuts to appear on the skin. Related entry, the Gladiol Saga. A series of high fantasy novels based on the East...
セナって女が持ってたのに比べると、こっちは随分地味だな。
A series of high fantasy novels based on the Eastern European myth of Gladiol, the Wicked Heart King. Told over the course of 23 volumes, it depicts the battle between the 7 Black Knights and Gladiol. It was written by R.C.O. Ziegler from 1929 to 1951. The series has been translated into several languages, but it never gained widespread appeal due to its rather esoteric writing style. Why did it have to be such a niche sword to begin with? I mean, why couldn't it have been a sword like Excalibur or Kusanagi? You know, swords were actually a big deal. Well, they don't use Excalibur because everybody would get annoyed by him. Wait, wrong Excalibur. No, this wasn't the time to piss and moan. Niche or mainstream, I didn't care as long as it could save me. I decided to research it a bit more. Bought a D-sword, the blog of a free soul with too much free time. Free soul, free time. Continuing, I clicked the second link. The words, I bought a D-sword, caught my eye specifically. Were D-swords something you could buy? I'll have to look that up later. The blog owner seemed to be male, so I could deduce that it could be the demon girl or Senna. I bought a sword today. It's called D-Sword, I think. Seriously, I can't get enough of all this shady stuff I've been picking up. Town Vanguard is an oasis for my soul, man. The only places in the entire Tokyo metropolitan area that have got that shady vibe TV are in Akiba. Even then, though, Akiba stores don't really scratch that itch for me, you know? All they've really got is computers or porn or stuff like that. Can't say the same for TV, though. There used to be all sorts of shady shops in Shibuya. But they've been washed away along with the flow of time. Man, those were the days. Oh, what's amazing to me is that if you didn't know any better, TV totally looks like a store for noobs, LMAO. And the energy shown in the writing was way too different from Shogun's. Was he a completely unrelated third party? Or could he have deliberately changed his writing style? What the fuck? I knew that no answer would come to me no matter how much I thought about it, so I gave up and stopped looking at the blog. More importantly, it seemed like the store he'd mentioned, Town Vanguard, was located in Shibuya. Well, that's enough yearning for the good old days. I'm still wondering, though, who the hell named the thing a D-Sword, LOL? It's this pretty huge toy, and it's got this real oomph to it. Yeah, but even then, I'll bet money on the fact that the only reason it's at the store at all is because of the clerk, Yo-chan's interests. I mean, they recently put up a whatever the fuck, I can't read any of that, lol. There was a bunch of stuff like a lightsaber and a light shuriken, but they were obviously fake. It was pretty disappointing, to be honest. And yet, the light shuriken looked so ridiculous that I just had to buy and I can't read the rest. More importantly, similar story, oh yeah, we already read that, in Shibuya. I had the feeling that it was too good to be true, but I also had the feeling that it was predestined too. Looking at it from another angle, maybe the exact reason I'd run into a girl holding a D-Sword in the middle of Shibuya twice was because the store was located there. Wait, wasn't underground stuff like this supposed to be secretly popular among a few minority groups in Shibuya? Pretty sure it was. Anyway, I went ahead and ran a search for Town Vanguard. It didn't seem to have an official site, but I did find a preview image of it on the map, on an online map. If they didn't have an official site, that probably meant they didn't take online orders. I tried searching for them as a seller on Taboo auctions, but I didn't find anything. Which meant that I would have to go to the store in person. I really didn't want to go outside, but...
剣は手に入れなくちゃ。手に入れないとダメなんだ。
You got no choice, my dude. I had now come to think of the sword as my sole only means of opposing the demon girl. I didn't have any idea what I would actually do after I got it, though. I certainly wasn't brave enough to kill her with it. Not even close. Even so, I had hope that if I got my hands on a sword, I would be released somewhat from the terror that was tormenting me. The D-Sword would be my protective charm, something I could depend on. There was something strangely alluring about that sword. Which one? Oh, wait, no, this is the one you want to buy, right? Oh, hey, there's that homeless guy again. He's going to be around a long time, isn't he? It seemed like the store was located somewhere near Cat Street. Oh, by the way, stop by Mr. Hanakoma's shop to get yourself a cup of coffee. You'll thank me later. Cat Street was a long, winding road next to Meiji Dori that ran from Shibuya to Harajuku. Apparently, it had been built on top of an old stream that had been reclaimed a while back. There were a bunch of reasons as to why people started calling it Cat Street, such as it being frequented by feral cats, or that it was so narrow that only cats could use it. But it wasn't like it made a difference to me either way. Cat Street was pretty far away from my base. It took about 15 to 20 minutes to get there on foot. It'd be much faster by bike, but unfortunately, I didn't have one. I decided to take a route that went past the front of the train station, then through Shoto via cutting through Miyashita Park. Quickening my pace a bit, I crossed the overpass that went over Meiji Dori. Whew, I'd finally arrived. I was starting to get really impatient. The sheer distance was pissing me off. Cat Street was nice and quiet compared to Center-gai, and it felt much more like Harajuku than Shibuya. The stores lining the streets here were only aimed at trend chasers I wanted nothing to do with. Fuck them, to be honest. Oh boy. We all know what a trend chaser is, but let's just go over the definition. A highly fashion-conscious person who constantly changes their fashion sense depending on what is currently popular. Same thing can be said about some YouTubers. Some, not all. Knowing how out of place I was just made me all the more pissed off. It was complete foreign territory. Every last one of the assholes around me thought they were so damn cool. There were even more couples sauntering around than in the shopping district. Whatever. They're probably just a bunch of broke shitheads trying to pretend they had money, so they were likely just window shopping, LMAO. Wastes of space. I was starting to regret coming here at all, but I reminded myself that all the suffering would be worth it once I got a sword. So, I just sucked it up and kept walking. In order to avoid making eye contact with anyone, I kept my eyes firmly trained on my map as I speed walked toward my destination. Watch you was gonna be there. Just to really throw him off. Town Vanguard was deep into a narrow side road that split off from Cat Street.
ここか
Even though I'd only gone one side street away from the main road, the atmosphere had changed dramatically. It was a narrow, cramped, filthy alley that no car could travel through. The street was lined with wooden houses, out-of-business stores with closed shutters, and the inevitable spray-painted graffiti that covered said shutters. Despite how nice it had looked from the outside with all its high-class name-brand stores, Cat Street 2 was nothing more than a superficial facade. And behind that facade lay a whole host of broken-down, mercilessly discarded junk heaps. Then again, I couldn't stand the place either way. Both the bullshit and the truth were foreign territory for me. The only home for me was ESO. Even for the back streets, though, Town Vanguard had an even smaller, darker atmosphere than I was expecting. I was finally starting to get why the blogger had called it shady. Even though an open sign was hanging on the door, it didn't exactly look like business was booming. And that was being generous. Thanks to that, it was extremely hard to convince myself to go in. How was I, a guy who couldn't even go into a gyudon shop by himself, supposed to enter a sketchy-ass store like this? I wanted to go home. No, I need to get my hands on a sword, no matter what. Ugh, what should I do? I spent a little while trying and failing to get myself to go in. Not a single person came through the cramped alley. I'd already spent 30 minutes waffling over what to do, but I still hadn't seen a single soul since I'd gone off the road. All that happened was I would finally decide to suck it up and go in, but then I would realize I wasn't brave enough. Repeat ad nauseum. But I couldn't go home empty-handed. This was the only place I could get my hands on a D-sword. Even though my sense of reason told me that, my instincts made me hesitate to enter the shop. In my mind, I had a delusion where the clerk came out to me. Of course, she was a cute maid, and she talked to me with a voice straight out of an anime. She knew exactly what I wanted, and she held the D-sword out to me, friendly as could be. Here you are, please take this sword, master. Okay, that's enough. Chill out, me. Just as I was thinking about how much nicer it'd be if things turned out that way, a lone 3D girl appeared from within the store, almost like she'd somehow heard my thoughts. However, unlike my delusion, she was wearing disgustingly gaudy clothes. The type that made you think, what Indian tribe did she steal those from? But at the same time, despite the getup, she looked absolutely miserable. Talk about whiplash. Her hair was incredibly frizzy to the point where it looked like her head had exploded, and creepy patterns were scrawled on the bandana she had twisted around it. Can I see what she looks like? She said that she was a store worker and had come out after seeing me pacing outside. My delusion hadn't exactly become reality, but it wasn't like I had expected it to. Before I knew what was happening, the clerk forcibly showed me inside. Despite how reluctant I was to do so, I didn't even have the chance to turn her down. Oh shit. Is that a fucking full suit of armor for sale? How much? Give it to me. I don't care if it's heavy as fuck. I want knight armor. Freaking Dark Souls has made me armor sexual. Give it to me. In the end, I found myself inside the store. It was all well and good that I'd cleared the most difficult obstacle. But if this store was under the demon girl's control and everything about the D-sword was an elaborate trap to lure me to it, I wouldn't be allowed to complain if I got killed right here. My eyes darted around the store's dim interior. There wasn't a single customer. The air was awfully stagnant and slightly hazy. The unpleasant odor of tobacco and mold mixed together and invaded my nostrils. I felt like I was going to be sick if I stayed here for any more than 5 minutes. Though I saw things that looked like products, it was difficult to judge whether or not they were actually for sale. All of them had been placed haphazardly, and there was no way to distinguish them from just plain old garbage. Are you kidding? I would kill to see a store like this. And it didn't help that not a single one of them had a price tag. Wait, really? I didn't notice until after I'd come in, but there were a whole lot of porn and sex toys. Among them were devices you'd see in that humiliation type eroge and I had no idea where to find a safe place to look. Never mind, I take back what I said. I'll buy the suit of armor. God knows I'm gonna need protection in a store like that. This store must have been a variety shop for adults or something. After forcing me into the store, the clerk sat down on a stool behind the counter, then proceeded to zone out as she smoked. She showed no indication that she was going to continue meddling with me. She was probably a partial source of the haze in here. Even though it had been less than a minute since I'd come in, anxiety, a weird sense of pressure, and the embarrassment all combined with how sick I was feeling in the form of a disgusting sweat seeping out of my forehead. I wanted to get out of this otherworldly place as soon as possible. I had to hurry up and find a D-sword. Quick. I walked around the back as I looked throughout the store. Or I walked toward the back. I soon found the fantasy weapons section, which had been mentioned in the blog I'd found. This corner of the store was the only one that stood out to me. Numerous pole-shaped toys were neatly displayed. All the toys were tubes of some sort. They were different colors, but pretty much all of them were lightsabers. You could tell pretty easily from how shoddy they were that they were all bootleg. I doubt if they would even glow. It seemed like the light shuriken talked about in the blog was sold out, which surprised me. Yet mixed in with the lightsabers was a single item that was clearly different from the rest. Oh. It only took one look for me to know it was a D-sword. It looked almost exactly like the illustration I'd seen online. I went to pick it up. It was unexpectedly light. I wonder what it was made out of. But it definitely seemed like some sort of soft vinyl. It wasn't sharp at all. The edges were slippery, and naturally it didn't hurt me in the slightest when I ran my fingers across it. Compared to the one Senna and Fez had, it was badly designed, had no sense of weight, and above all else, it didn't give me the sense that it would ever sever anything with just the slightest touch. Could it be a fake? That worried me, but there wasn't anything else in the store that resembled a D-sword. Would this even give off light at all? The D-sword Fez had swung around at her show had pieces of glass embedded in it that gave off a blue light and looked extremely badass. But I didn't see a single shard of glass in the sword I was holding. Maybe I shouldn't buy it. The D-sword was so shoddily made that I couldn't help but come to that conclusion, despite how long it had taken me to get here. But find a sword. If you do, you'll be granted salvation. I remembered Fez's words. Right. If I didn't buy it right here and now, I'd lose my only chance of getting my hands on a D-sword. Maybe it only looked cheap, but once it recognized me as its true master, an incredible power would manifest within it. Or maybe I'd seen too much anime or read one too many manga. But I had sensed that exact kind of unknown power in Senna and Fez's swords. So this sword should have it too, but to do? While my internal debate raged on, the clerk came up and stood right behind me without me noticing. With a melancholic smirk, she pointed at the D-sword and muttered, 10,000 yen, and I'll throw in a free bonus. How absurdly cheap it was made me doubt my own ears at first. I had amassed quite a bit of cash from RMT, and if it was only 10,000 yen, I could buy it simply by sacrificing a single figure. When I'd heard the price, and when I'd realized that it was the last one they had left, I'd come to an immediate decision. The bonus that had come with it was a cheap-looking bangle. To be frank, I didn't want it in the slightest. What? Bangles can offer you a certain percentage defense increase. That or a new spell slot. Everything after that was hell. Town Vanguard didn't do delivery, so my only option was to lug it home myself. Toy or not, my excitement died instantly when I realized I'd have to carry the stupidly long sword right through the heart of Shibuya. But I'd already paid for it, and the clerk adamantly refused to let me return it. Wah wah. This was a really intense form of humiliation roleplay. Having to haul a huge toy like this down a fancy street, just as I'd come to expect, the DQN couples, dolled-up grills, and whatever other manner of sheep that passed me by all had those same exact mocking smiles. Damn it. Every last one of you should just KYS. I focused intently on keeping my head down for the rest of the way home, having delusions all the way about swinging my newly bought D-sword at the innocent people in the middle of the road, viciously slaughtering piles and piles of them. Jesus! Christ, dude! There's intrusive thoughts, and then there's my dude. Go to a doctor. Oh, wait a minute. We tried going to a doctor. Now you refuse to go to a doctor, so therefore, shit. I finally made it back. I started running when I was about halfway home, and I didn't stop until I got there, so I was gasping for air by the time I'd reached my base. The ice-cold stares of the pedestrians were killing me. It was somewhat impressive that Senna was able to endure this kind of embarrassment all the time. In a way, I even respected her for it. I could never do what she did. Uh-oh. Suddenly, a shadow came from a blind spot in the shadow of my base. Was someone there? Freezing in my tracks, I gulped. The pure white smile of the demon girl who called herself Rimi appeared in my mind. Maybe she'd come back. Maybe this time she'd come to kill me for real! What should I do? Should I run? I sensed a presence. The light of the sunset etched someone's shadow onto the ground. One that I knew, without a shadow of a doubt, had to be female. I immediately readied my D-sword. When I actually tried holding it like that, though, it felt even less reliable than I'd expected it to. Senna's sword had felt incredibly intimidating, and had this sense of overwhelming pressure that wouldn't allow anyone to get near it. But the D-sword I was holding didn't feel like that at all. Maybe it really was a fake. Could I really fight with something like this? There was no way! Even if I had a real one, I still couldn't do it. Not only that, but I hadn't realized how heavy it really was until I first started holding it just now. Maybe I was holding it wrong. In any case, it would be impossible to even swing it like this. The shadow suddenly wavered. It was approaching me. I shut my eyes tight and haphazardly swung the sword in front of me. I knew I wouldn't be able to defeat my enemy this way. Even so, I had the faint hope that as long as I had this sword, it'd somehow do something anyway. But I didn't feel it hit anything, nor did my enemy make a sound. I couldn't believe it. Could that single strike of mine have utterly annihilated the demon girl? If so, that'd be the best shit to ever happen to...
Oni, その剣何?
I had a feeling it was her. Hey, Nanami. When I opened my eyes, the one standing there wasn't the demon girl, but rather Nanami. She was looking at me with unmistakably judgmental eyes. Hi, Nanami. All my strength disappeared instantly, and I dropped to the ground right where I'd been standing.
お前脅かすなよ。
She was the worst! The worst little sister ever. Didn't she know how shitty it was to scare her own older brother like this, let alone enjoy it? Who the hell did she think she was? This is exactly why 3D would always pale in comparison to 2D. Will you shut up about that?
別に脅かしてないよ。いつもみたいにお兄の生存確認しに来てあげたんじゃん。なのにお兄いないんだもん。なんでナナが30分もお兄のこと心配しながら待ってなくちゃいけないわけ？ナナの貴重な時間が無駄に消えてっちゃったじゃん。お兄のバカ。
I will apologize to you. He probably won't, though. Worried? This bitch was worried about me? As if I would ever fall for such an obvious lie.
で、どこ行ってたの？出かけるなんて珍しいじゃん。携帯にかけても繋がないし。
Did I forget my phone? I left my phone behind at my base. It wasn't like anyone was gonna call me while I was out, so I'd see no point in bringing it.
そもそも、その剣何なの？
It's my defense weapon!
もしかして買ってきたの？
Nanami peered curiously at the sword.
あ、わかった。アニメのおもちゃかなんかでしょ？ほんと、お兄ってオタクさんだね。しかもこのおもちゃ、ちっとも似合ってないよ。さっきだってへっぴり腰で構えちゃってて、思い出したら笑えてきた。
Stop laughing at me! Ignoring Nanami, I undid the lock on the door to the container house and made to go inside.
ちょっと、無視すんな。
帰れ。
If she'd just come to check if I was alive, then she'd got what she wanted, and she no longer had any reason to be here. She was always making fun of me, and every time she came over, she would do nothing but complain. If she was really that put off by being here, then she didn't have to come at all. It was annoying anyway. There'd be no skin on my back if she just stopped.
あのね、わざわざ様子見に来てあげてんだから、もっとありがたがってよ。
He probably won't be.
せっかくお土産まで持ってきたのに。
Wait, a present? Her voice was whiny as could be, and she pursed her lips.
お土産？
Yeah, I'm very curious what kind of present you got.
そう、お母さんが持ってけって。ほら。
What is it? Nanami handed me a bag of clementines. There were about 10 of them, wrapped up in red netting. Weird. Something's fishy here. I'd eat clementines if they were right in front of me, but they weren't my favorite food or anything.
というわけで、ナナもちょっと一服したいから、一緒に食べてあげる。
Oh, there we go.
帰れ。
Wants to... Come on! Sit down with your sister and share the clementines.
もう、妹がお土産持ってきて、しかも一緒に食べてあげるって言ってるんだよ。もっと喜びなよ。
What exactly about eating clementines with Nanami was supposed to make me feel happy at all? And besides, it was obvious that she just wanted to eat the clementines, and that was the whole reason why she'd come here. She's been a fat ass ever since we were little, often stealing my portion to add to hers. I couldn't count the amount of time we fought over that. Can you stop? Nanami, unable to take a hint, waltzed right into my base. I gave up and followed in after her.
お茶ある？あったかいのがいいな。
Fine. Why the hell would I have tea? I only drink cola and nothing else. You are going to die miserably, my dude. Nanami sat down on the sofa and grabbed a clementine. Sighing, I set down the D-sword so it leaned against my computer desk. I had no reason to continue carrying the bangle in my pocket, so I just chucked it somewhere behind me.
あれ？それ何？
Quickly spotting the bangle I'd thrown on the floor, Nanami went to pick it up. Oh.
へえ、かわいいバングルじゃん。
Oh shit, that actually looks cooler than I thought it was gonna look like. That actually looks kinda neat.
これも買ってきたの？お兄にしてはいいセンス。
Cute? How? The thing was nothing more than a piece of junk you'd get for 500 yen at worst. Fuck, I couldn't even believe how bad Nanami's taste was. It looks cool! Ignoring her once again, I nabbed one of the clementines and sat down in front of my PC.
ねえねえ、なんでこれ捨てちゃうの？
だっていらないし。
じゃあさ、これナナにちょうだい。
Go ahead.
はあ？
いいじゃん、どうせ捨てるならさ。
Exactly.
たまにはお兄ちゃんらしく妹にプレゼントの一つでもしてよ。
You call it a present, but it's just something that I don't want that you suddenly decided to appropriate.
勝手に持ってけば。
本当？やったー。
Oh. Nice. Literal walking PMS. As soon as she'd gotten my approval, she put the bangle on her wrist. Takes a real cheap whore to get this excited over such a cheap piece of junk. Just grit your teeth.
お兄、どう？似合う？
全然。
あっそう。お兄のバーカ。
You're correct, he is. It was supposed to be a present, so why was she treating me like that? You! Oh my god, the lack of self-awareness of this dude. Holy shit, the audacity of this bitch. Little sisters weren't supposed to call their brothers mean names, and big brothers aren't supposed to call their little sisters whores. Holy fuck. As a big brother myself, oh my god, this guy really makes me want to punch him in the face. And I'm not a violent person, I really want to deck him. What were they teaching girls nowadays? Go play 100 Aerogay this instant. Bro! She was grinning from ear to ear. I, meanwhile, was getting extremely pissed off.
これ気に入っちゃったからもう返さないもんね。っていうか、お兄からプレゼントもらうなんて初めてのような気がする。
This is the first time I've ever gotten a present from you. Oh my fucking god, that's sad.
しょうがないから大事にしてあげるよ。
As if I cared? No one asked you to take care of it. I didn't even get it for you in the first place.
もう用は済んだんだから帰れ。僕は暇じゃないんだ。邪魔するな。
The moment I said that, Nanami pursed her lips.
そんな言い方しなくてもいいじゃん。それにみかんまだ食べてないし、お茶もまだ出してもらってないよ。
おめえに飲ませるお茶はね。
I like the way that's worded. I don't have any goddamn tea for you to drink.
うっかー。
Nanami glared at me intently, hands on her hips. Before long, her eyes started welling up, and then...
わかったよ。そんなに邪魔なら帰る。
ああ、さっさと頼む。
Fucking Christ, the reaction.
Fine, I'll leave.
Okay, go, hurry up. Fucking Christ.
お兄のバカ。お兄なんてみかんの皮で目つぶし食らって失明しちゃえ。あとバングルは返さないかんね。バカ。
Yelling in a migraine-inducing voice that resounded throughout the entire room, Nanami grabbed her bag and ran out with insane speed. Oh, thank God, it's finally over. Hanging out with Nanami always took everything out of me. Why did she insist on coming here every week when I'd made it very clear I was sick of it? Read the room, for fuck's sake. What the fuck? Nozomi?
ファーストメルトは期待以上の結果に終わりました。
Wait, we're back with Nozomi. Wait, the first melt? Huh?
G レートの上昇率は当初の予測からわずかな誤差があった程度です。
Minor discrepancy between the GE rate increase and our initial calc. What the? I am so fucking. Alright, the plot's going on while the main character doesn't give a shit.
バイオリズムコントロールも順調なのかね。
Biorhythm control proceed? Wait, biorhythm control. Biorhythm. A graph showing the cyclical changes in the physiological state, emotional imbalance, and intelligence of a biological organism. The term is often employed with the explanation of, on days when an organism's biorhythm is high, they will be in good condition, but on days when the organism's biorhythm is low, they will be in poor condition. So, these guys are experimenting with the ability to control how well a person functions?
渋谷の GE レートは他のエリアと比べて高い値を持っていると同時に安定性についても特筆したものがあります。
Okay.
それゆえに意図的に操作しやすいということか。そして渋谷にいる人々のバイオリズムを急激に引き上げることもまた。
Dear God, they really are. Okay. So there's some sort of conspiracy in trying to control, I guess, people's performances? For some purpose.
実験結果についてはレポートをご参照ください。納得していただける成果を上げております。
貴様が成果を出すのは当然だ。そのために高い金と多くの人材を提供しているのだからな。
Incredible human resources.
実効性については理解しているよ。この数ヶ月だけでも我が会の信者が数倍に膨れ上がっているからね。
Wait. Church's followers? Is this some weird cult shit going on again? Does this have to do with New Gen? Like the bio... Okay, you know what? Immediately theory time. So, like, this whole biorhythm discussion. Maybe that's what Senna, Remy, and maybe even Fez have going for them. Like, their biorhythms are extremely high, and thus that lets them, like, I don't know, break reality and summon a magic weapon or some shit. Granted, we've only seen 2 weapons. Oh, 3 if you count the stakes that Remy used to impale that guy. Meanwhile, my thought process, maybe the new gen murders are people whose biorhythms were drastically reduced, thus resulting in them dying for some reason, because their performance was legitimately awful or some shit. I don't know.
それでは、プロジェクトノアは次の段階へと進ませます。よろしいですね。
Project Noah?
コードサンプルの件はどうするのだ。すでに3人分は確保したとはいえ、目標数値には達しておらんではないか。
The samples of 3 people. What 3 people are currently in my mind that I literally just mentioned? Senna, Fez, and Remy? Also, what's this talk about code? Code samples?
いかにも。数値達成のためには最低でも5人分はなければ厳しい。
So they're needing 2 more samples. I'm imagining maybe Takumi is going to end up being one of these supposed samples.
サンプル保持者は集まりつつあります。あとは採取するのみ。
ならばその件は任せる。
信仰の救いあれ。くれぐれも慎重にことを進めるように。
May the divine light save you. Okay, yeah, they're definitely cultish. Yeah, this is definitely a cult going on here.
はい、心得ております。